Hello, everybody. Just starting our Instagram Live today that we're having with Annie May Johnston about her solo show, Sympathetic Magic. Just going to quickly pan you around the room to get the conversation started. And I'm going to invite Annie in. Hey, Annie.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for talking with me today.
Well, thanks for having me on. And hello, all the people that are joining too. Pretty fun.
Yeah. So I'm Kevin Ivester. I own and direct Ivester Contemporary, and this is Annie May Johnston, whose solo show behind me, Sympathetic Magic, is on view till March 5th. And we're talking today because we have a reception tomorrow night from 5 to 7,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Good early evening time.
Yes. You're a mom.
Yes.
Um, do you want to give like a really brief overview of the exhibition, of yourself, and then we'll kind of get into some of the details?
Sure. Absolutely. Um, hi, I'm Annie May, and I teach at UT. I'm part of the print area. Um, and all of the works in the show are part of are under pressure of some kind. They range from lithoprints, prints to brush to digital prints and everything. I really appreciate this smaller space and the space in general because it allowed me just this amazing opportunity to create something that's in conversation with one another and create a space that I hope tells a story. And it involves quite a few elements, and you have to spend a bit of time maybe reading them, but nothing that's too hopefully too overwhelming. So I think it's a great space to come enjoy the different layers, like in printmaking. I'm not sure if that, and I'm in the read zone
Yeah.
right now, so which is like a silk screen copy machine that we have here, and there are Riza prints in the show as well.
Nice. Yeah, the one's right behind me
Mm-hmm.
on the table. Will just let you know that that's the response that I've gotten from everybody coming into the show is people understand that this is one continuous kind of conversation that you're having in the small space, in the project space. So that's working. Um,
Great. I mean, I think that maybe downfall of my work possibly that they this much more in conversation with one another than as their own objects. So the really
well, that's how I like to use the project space more than anything, as this like full installation, this full immersive experience. And, I think it gives people the opportunity to see like a complete thought, right?
hmm yep, yep. And I mean,
Um,
maybe jumping the gun here, but I think I told Kevin, I'll tell everybody else too, that this is the first time I think a show or works of I felt very happy with how everything turned out, and like I fully fleshed out enough of my ideas and they were visible and present. I think the first time I've been actually happy with the show. That's
nice. I remember you saying that when we were installing. That's a good thing.
yeah.
Um, do you want to talk about the title and where the inspiration for that title came from?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it ultimately goes back to an article that I was reading from Lagaya Michan called "What Does It Mean to Eat What You Fear?" And in the article, they reference sympathetic magic, which is a term that was introduced by British anthropologist George Fraser in 1890 in his study of the golden bow, which describes the exchange of qualities, good or bad qualities, one being when one object comes in contact with another. And so the golden bow, what is this story of Aeneas who would like to go give his father a hug in the underworld, and he has to get the golden bow from the woods and is helped out by Sybil, who gives him this item which allows him to cross the rivers of the underworld and get by Hades so that he can see his father once more. But ultimately, he can't actually give his father a hug because it's just his shade and he passes right through. So I loved that this golden bow was a form of protection, and ultimately, I guess the ultimate hope is that my daughter is a year and a half, is this way to provide her with a form of protection as she moves through the world. So that is my failed attempt at doing that. There's a lot of failure in the work. Yeah.
As a sort of device
As a
and
device.
part
Yes.
of the concept. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that it fails, not that it fails to communicate, but ultimately, I obviously cannot protect her because part of giving birth, giving life, is also birthing death. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's worked, and it's a complicated and really heavy kind of show. There's a lot of layers, and people definitely feel that when they walk in. It's a whole journey coming in here. um, and another part of sort of your concept is the material or the medium itself. Can
Yes.
you talk about like why printmaking and how does that relate?
Well, I mean, why printmaking for me ultimately goes back to agency and removing a bit of agency from my own mark making through printmaking. So oftentimes, because you are going through another media, that you are putting matrix or this womb or this reproducible thing through a press, through pressure. Um, uh, uh, takes like it's very different from putting like a brush to canvas. It becomes it kind of has this own. I hate to use the word magic again because that's kind of gimmicky, but the printmaking in its reproducibility and the failures that come from being a printmaker, um, it allows for it to be something that's not entirely me. So that there's a power in something else rather than just the direct mark on paper or on canvas. So that part is important, but then also all the things with printmaking. I write about there's a lot of language within the world of print, like kiss, spit, bite. There's so many bodily items within printmaking itself that relate to the body and relate to birthing and reproducibility. And so I also that connection is also really important to my practice in general.
We've got a question here from someone just asking where your inspiration for making prints comes from. And you just answered that, but we will post this and it can be rewatched.
Yes, yes. I mean that I think it's very different. Just a short, slightly tangential answer is that I ruminated for a very long time about the overall theme of my own show and what it should be about, and making sure all of my prints ultimately linked back to that idea of like protection, but also failure. So a lot of thinking. And then also obviously having the Golden Bow as a reference, as a document, reading that, reading New York Times, so things that are very contemporary and things that are also very old. So I try to pull across time.
Yeah. And the piece that I'm looking at here was inspired by an artist named, and I've been practicing this name because it's a tough one for me, is Rodolfo Abularque.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also incorporated a print by William Hogarth, or a part of a print by William Hogarth. What was the reason for that?
Well, a lot of times when we do eyes, we think immediately of Redon, who was also a printmaker, and these eyes, and people think it's him, but really, this other artist, Rudolf Abelard, I obviously can't even pronounce it. His focus for a long time was just on eyes, and a lot of the artists are also and eyes appear a lot in my work. These are also eyes and breasts at the same time. That they kind of go back and forth in space here. But I'm also of the same mind that we always get our ideas from other people and what have people done before. It's very rare to have a totally new idea. And so this one was pulling a chance for me to go back to my lithographic roots and pull in the idea of this eye. And as a mother, and you have this young baby that relies on you for everything. So there's this idea of like this eye stalking you at all times. And so you can see sort of like the hair around, which I put in my hair there. So this idea of like a womb also in there, with eyes and breasts and fluids. So
Yeah.
just pulling from his City of Eyes series, which are all lithographs and are really incredible. And then William Hogarth is a very, very important British printmaker. And I mean, one thing that relates us is, and this is his print around the edges here of these of this audience. And William Hogarth was a satirist, a social critic, and an editorial cartoonist. And within his work, I mean, one example is like for a little bit, I thought like maybe I should try and paint, but I am just not a painter. And neither, William Hogarth got commissioned to paint something, and then ultimately said, "Nah, I'm not a painter either," and got sued for it. But a lot of his work so much has to do with like moralizing art and telling this story of life and downfall of humanity and sort of our greed, just like innate attributes and the bad and the good. And so with his work, he was really making a lot of commentary about those items. And so on this piece, I used this very like threatening, and I've used this print quite a bit, this very threatening audience with these teeth, that you could think that they were in support of the works or in support of the to protect my daughter, but really ultimately it's like ridicule and laughing at me and at my attempt. So yeah, so it yeah, it's like this audience. It's the audience watching me fail. Yeah.
And this William Hogarth print is around
Yeah.
another print that's unrelated.
Yeah.
And just mention what that other print is showing too.
I should have that name like ready. I don't. This is, you can see Aeneas here hugging this tree. that is the golden bow, and you have a bird assisting and telling him like, this is the tree that you need, and then this crevice in the tree, and crevice into the underworld. And so cutting off the person in the face felt to me that it could be, it like gives a bit of anonymity, and I could be that person holding on. And then that crevice in the tree also like birth this like deep dark hole. So for me, it's like sort of like a cutoff of another print, and it's referencing another work of art, as is another one, which is like originally a Turner painting turned into an etching, which then I did yeah, it's the middle the middle, yeah,
This one
yeah.
here.
So a lot of it is also like me referencing other work by actually pulling it and appropriating it, but then modifying it. Like for this one, it's adding in the two birds here, like me and my partner. And then there's Sybil with the golden bow down below. And so this was me taking from a Turner painting that turned into an etching, now as a photopolymer plate, and then just taking a teeny tiny bit of that etching and redoing it and adding some text from Sappho below, talking about death. So
Nice.
yes.
It's an uplifting show.
it's
No,
yeah, it's both. I hope it's both. I hope
it
it's
is.
both.
It is.
You know.
And really some of the most uplifting parts of the show, some of the things that are like these almost like comedic like reliefs, are the crayon that you're using and some of the other materials apart from your printmaking. So I guess we'll start with the crayon and then we'll get into the neon and
Okay.
yeah, some of these other things. So at what point did you start using the crayon, and why did that come in, and what does that kind of add?
I mean, it's mostly you on that level, as me bringing in these like fancy artist crayons and being like, I want to do something with this, and you were like, yeah, you should.
I love crayon.
On the wall. So, some of that, and I think that's also being a printmaker, is that we're used to collaborating and making around people and with people and people watching us. And so we're not like shuttered away in our studios, with headphones on. It's so much of a collaborative action. And so a lot of that with you was just sort of like the last touches with the crayon was me figuring out how to achieve the thing that I wanted, and your feedback and suggestion on doing it on the wall, and then I drew directly on the like table or plinth or whatever that was.
The support right here.
Yeah, support base. Although those are there, and then on the sides, especially I think with the hands.
Yeah, the hand
And
all the
yeah,
way around.
and the hands there are like a reference to me catching or supporting or holding up, and also like the ultimate, going all the way back to like the original peoples of this earth putting their hands on the cave walls and like the ultimate relief print. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then and I'm going back and forth like making you shuttle all around the thing, but yeah, on the black ones that we just saw, writing that middle one is the matrix, that all of the other prints were like attempting to be, and then bright sadness is written backwards, forwards, up, down, just like how we have to think as printmakers. We have to think a lot of times in reverse for many of the different processes, and so that was just a direct plug to printmaking in general. And so those are the middle one. Oh, I forgot to talk about this, but maybe now I will. This plant, this golden bow, is they think is mistletoe, except it turns golden when it dries, but it's also a invasive plant that grows here in in Texas. And people also drink it in a tea. So, I bought some mistletoe and I dried it, and I bought some dried mistletoe. And I liked that it was also like it's an invasive parasitic plant, and so at the same time I'm thinking about like as a mother, you are also. I'm going to speak about this, and people are going to be like, "Wow, she really." I mean, really loves her daughter, but it's also when you're pregnant, you also have it's kind of a parasite pulling from you, and then after birth, of course, it's pulling from you and your energy that way too. So I like the link in that dichotomy. Between something that it like gives life but also sucks life from its host. So
And that ties back into the Matrix being this place where other things are pulled from.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that word is me through multiple different digital print processes, and there's silkscreen text on the back in black that you can't see very well if
In
not.
person, you can.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That is me attempting to recreate the mistletoe, and that failure. There's repeated elements in there multiple times. I can't ever quite figure it out. And the text behind there talks about the idea of bright sadness. Again, that duality, joy, grief, that I think is very that is very much about like life and being a parent, and things are wonderful and they're also tragic and horrible. So
Well, and I think that's a good segue to your neon.
mm-hmm.
So it says till/to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm interested to hear, your thoughts on the text, but also just its positioning in the space. I'm going to back up a little bit to give it some kind of context. It's kind of looking down on us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of, and also our conversation, I keep on roping you in. I know you're not trying to like plug me to talk about you and your collaboration with me, but I think like as a printmaker, it so much is about that collaboration with other people, is that our conversation was a lot about like I'm not religious, but there are a lot of like the bright sadness is very much a religious concept. That thinking about like the looking down on someone, that the prints on the left that are holding the mistletoe or handing it down to my daughter are like pouring it out for her. Because she's this little person, and that one we talked about just like how you'd be able to, that it's not like like a much higher power, but we can't quite reach it if you're in there. Maybe if you're really tall you could, but it's the thought that if I lifted her up, she would be able to grasp onto that. So it's this higher person, till to death. It's again a beginning and an end. Like I love you to death, or in marriage, like till death do we part. So it's still very, it's very circular thinking in my realm, about love and sadness and life and death. Yeah, did that answer the question? I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes on a
Yeah.
tangent.
Absolutely. I think it did. And then there's this triptych up high, again, up high, placing things higher. What is a triptych, and why is that one high up?
Oh, well, I mean, these were a bit of, I guess, a departure from all the other ones. These were a bit more difficult. I really wanted something that was a bit shiny, but not overly in your face about it. And with this, I have these two kind of like chubby hands reaching up to an eye that, you know, we a lot of times see this eye that's crying tears, but in this way we have two pipes that come out that are almost like severed hands spraying the eye with water. And I kind of wanted this like weird, dreamy-ish layered, because these are using stencils, which is a printmaking thing, and an airbrush. These more like dreamy, otherworldly bits in the space that I didn't really feel like these needed close attention either. Like I felt like they I wanted them to also be like the pinnacle or an altar or something, like, you know, the star that we put at the top of the tree or on top of a building, like gargoyles or something. And then you see again like the squiggliness and the two hands that come up of hair, and then there's two other arms that are coming over to sort of like cradle or protect the hand. And then the eyes, I mean, that top eye, I'll be, you know, fully honest, that top eye comes from things here in the print studio where you can wash out your eyes if you get chemicals in them. And so it's also this like divulge of water in your face and your eyes, and it's very forceful. So that I kind of wanted to be a little bit otherworldly in its shininess, since they're on aluminum. And it's so just like blasted with airbrush that there's not as many tiny details there to admire from up close at a regular height. And yeah, it creates this really nice sort of triangle altar that ties in with the rest of the plinth at the base. So again, I'm not religious, but so many of our prints, so much of our art history, and I also realize that this is very much like a westernized view, like dealing with the Christianity, but it gives it kind of that like altar space where it makes the table important and considered as well.
Yeah. And now the table, or this plinth that we've got. I mean, there's really a lot of things going on with this plinth. There's these 5 place settings almost. There's this branch, segmented branch. There's the color of the plinth. You know, there's a lot of details to get into, but what are your sort of main thoughts about it?
Well, I think these were the original pieces for the show. This was made before anything else. This I made on the day after her birthday. I mean, the day of her birthday, which was July. She was born on July 3rd, and so July 4th. I sort of thought about like the celebration of fireworks and what I was making her and to eat, what I was feeding her, what like sympathetic magic in that way is like you consume these things that give you this bigger, like I hate to say like higher power or whatever, but we do it with like energy drinks, we do it with all sorts of things. And in this case it was sort of like a documentation of the energy that I was giving my daughter in these Riso prints printed by these actually I sent these away and said to my friend Kendall Bradley, who works at a shop in New York, and she printed them for me in the color she thought was appropriate for this. Let's see. I feel like I'm just sort of blabbing here.
No.
So it all started, if you want me, I can carry on. It kind of started with these pears and this pear tree that we have outside that like rats, I think, would always get you, tree rats. And so we did all these things to protect the tree. And I'm not sure if the tree has ever actually produced that much fruit. So all the branches were breaking with the weight of this fruit. And then I picked all this fruit to try to help it. And then I let the pears just sit on the table and rot. And for me, again, very much about this like protection, this life that failed. The branches broke. The and then I left them there to mold and go bad on the table. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then the final thing is the Sculpey additions. Again, bringing it back to like Sculpey as this more, maybe like pejorative, more childlike, mm, uh, like sculpture work clay, and to create something, I really wanted this like broken branch, that also feels a bit like skin, that gets wrapped in these other colors. You can see the pressure from my hands. You can see it very like physically me making it and squishing it. I'm not trying to hide any of those elements. And then it ultimately ends, like it starts to turn amber and hardens, and then it sort of ends in this kind of what I think is like a bit scary hand. Um, so
Definitely.
yeah, yeah. So it's like a little bit funny, with the like broccoli face with the green bean, and then also being, I very seriously try, uh, to make these things interesting and beautiful, while also being very transparent about, like, also not being sneaky about how they're made.
Well, I think that the show is beautiful. It like requires engagement. It requires you to really think hard about it and read the text that you've provided us. And um, I mean, really, I think everybody's slightly taken aback by it when they see it in person. And it's been a really it's been a good response. It's been fun to talk with people through it, and I love showing it. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. It was so great to work with you. Telling everybody that's watching right now, Kevin like really tunes to um, what the work wants and what the space wants, and not what you want. So it was really wonderful, and your feedback was so essential to me creating the space. So thank
Thanks,
you.
man. Thank you. Yeah. Well, we've got an opening tomorrow night, 5 to 7. I invite everybody who's watching this to come. You know, you've got to see this work in person. There's a lot of components, and you know, you can explore the show for 30 minutes. It's just a little 11 by 20 foot room, but there's a lot in it. So everybody come through. And if you can't make it tomorrow night, it's up till March 5th. So you've got time.
Yep. Where's the location? In Canopy. So
Canopy. It's in East Austin, and the address is 916 Springdale Road.
and my mom will be there, and I think my baby will be there. So, baby, she's walking, but we'll see.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. And thank you for talking with me today.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all the people.
Yeah. Thanks, Annie. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.